So here you see the sorghum was harvested, and you know, this was the sorghum. You can see this is the sorghum. That was the sorghum. That was the sorghum, and they were cut. You know, the top was cut. Now those ones that were left like were rejects. The tops were cut, and all the sorghum is now at home. But now, this sorghum can have a second season. What they are doing now is they are just cutting it, slashing it from the stems, and then we shall weed. They will weed this place without removing the stem. It's like they weed the stems, and the stems will sprout. So rather than plant the second crop of sorghum, the sorghum itself will reproduce. So sorghum you can plant the seeds. When you harvest the seeds, then you cut what like they are doing, and then these stems that are remaining behind will sprout. And in fact, na hizi zikimea zitamea hata mbili kwa stem moja zinaweza kutoka hata 2-3. Now from the stems, like he says, you will get maybe 2-3 sprouting. So you may argue that the second cropping will not be as strong, but you see there will be about 2, 3, 4, and therefore you can harvest. That means that if you are well done with the good manuring, then the second harvest will be more than the first harvest, because on the same stem they'll sprout more than 2. So you can want to thin them if you want, or leave them and then harvest again without planting. And this one, na sasa wewe utafanya nini hii ambayo unaweka huku hapa hii? He says this will be compost manure. So he's saying that he's going to make compost manure out of these stalks, and the compost manure will come back to the shamba. So there will be no need for buying organic or inorganic fertilizer. So this is the cycle. The sorghum was planted. It has been harvested. It was harvested earlier than about the same time with the maize. These stems were cut at the top to get the sorghum. We are now cutting the stalks. The stalks that you see there, those stalks are we are going to make compost manure. The compost manure will be used back into the farm. And therefore, with proper farming systems, you don't need that inorganic manure. You don't need to buy the manure, the fertilizers. If you do this for 2 seasons, then you'll be self-sufficient with your organic manure. I am talking about small-scale farming. This farmer is just about 2 acres, and therefore 2 acres can be sufficient. One, if it's maize, this maize that you see, this is like the traditional maize. They call it number 9, line 9. It is the traditional maize that doesn't require as much caring like fertilizer, and can withstand some weeds. And the stalks also will be used back to do compost manuring. And once the compost manure is done, then you can see that it is a cycle, or if you want, circular economy. And what will the sorghum used for? Sorghum is part of what we call the off-fund crops, very nutritious, only forgotten. So this sorghum plus the millet that you see afar there, and the soya beans, we are going to produce flour, particularly infant flour, and flour for the old, for energy. Hence, we have all this good husbandry. So, sorghum planted, harvested, the stalks are cut, the sorghum will sprout. We shall have a second crop without necessarily buying any more seeds, so the cost of seeds will reduce. The stalks are going to mate into organic compost manure. Manure will come back into the farm, and there you are, minimizing the cost of production on the farm. If you have just 1 acre, 2 acres, forget about the pricing. At fertilizer is very high because you have been used to using inorganic fertilizer, and therefore that mentality has refused or stopped you from making your own organic manure, and we go on lamenting that we do not have fertilizer. Fertilizer is expensive. Indeed, we did a costing with the fertilizer, the organic fertilizer that we buy, inorganic fertilizer that we buy in the shops. When you factor in that and you calculate the cost of production in your farm in 1 acre, fertilizer alone bought in the shops is taking up about 52% of the cost. Now, if you did organic manure, that will drop, and not only drop, but it also improve the structure of the soil, because organic manure is a lot better than inorganic manure in terms of retaining the structure of the soil, and again, itself being retained in the soil.